Fanboy Friday with Mark Walters and Robert Miguel.
Coyote Country 104.9.
104.9 Coyote Country. It's a Friday morning, time again for Fanboy Friday. So with me on the phone, checking in from Big D, that's Dallas, Texas, professional Q&A moderator and speaker, film critic at BigFanboy.com, and show director of the Dallas Comic Show, Mark Walters. Good morning. Woo!
You know, I'm looking outside, and I still have not got my snow here, Robert.
Man, I'm telling you what, other places, though, man, they're really getting their butts kicked, aren't they?
Yeah, my friends in Chicago are not loving it right now, I can tell you that. It's rough out there for some of those people. I guess we should be thankful.
No, absolutely, man. I like the cold. I can, tolerate some snow, but from what I'm understanding in the news, man, I mean, I do not envy them at all. So I'm happy to be right down here in the armpit of Texas.
Yeah. I'm still not convinced that we aren't going to get something. I think that before February is out, we're going to get hit pretty hard somehow. I just don't know what that's going to be yet. But you know what? When it's cold outside, what better time to go see a movie, right?
Absolutely. I feel like Dallas, yeah, you guys will get something. Down here, probably not. But, yeah, movies is what you do, so let's get caught up, man. Anything this week coming out of note?
Well, there's a few films opening this week, but there's only one that I got a chance to see. The Gina Rodriguez movie, she's got this movie called Miss Bala, kind of her opportunity to sort of do like an action thriller type of film and maybe transcend a little bit from, what she does on TV. She's very funny, very talented on TV, so it should be interesting to see how she does with this. I didn't get a chance to see it, but it does open up this weekend, and I think there's one other one.
Arctic.
Besides the one. What was it? It was Arctic. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to see that either. But I have heard good things. That's the Mads Mikkelsen one, right? Or not Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah. Yeah, he's always good in everything he does, so I'm sure it's probably, worth a look. And I love those adventurous survival movies. I love anything like that, so, I'm always game for that, so I'll probably check that out this weekend. No, the film that I did see that actually does go wide release this weekend, and I really hope people get a chance to see this because first of all, let's face it, Robert, movies about our history, especially when it comes to, war history and things like that, Hollywood doesn't really go after that stuff as much as they used to. Mm-hmm. And I think that, unfortunately, I mean, if you talk to some of the students of today, a lot of people, the concept of our history is dying. And so, people aren't really keeping up to date on what sort of things happened, 100 years ago. And so Peter Jackson, who, of course, brought us the Lord of the Rings movies and King Kong, Peter Jackson has put together a documentary called They Shall Not Grow Old. And this is a very interesting film because what he's done is he's working directly with the World War I Preservation Society. They have 100-year-old film footage from World War I that has a lot of which has never been seen before. And what they did was they basically granted Peter Jackson the rights to make a documentary. Well, Peter Jackson, of course, being Peter Jackson, wasn't content to just make a standard World War I documentary. He wanted to do something really unique and special with it. So what he's done is he's taken the film that they gave him and he has colorized it, he has speed corrected it, he has cleaned it up so that when you watch it now on the big screen, it looks like it was shot today.
Wow.
It actually looks incredible. It looks amazing. And I was just blown away. There was a couple moments where I was watching it and I had to remind myself, oh yeah, wait, this is 100-year-old film footage. It was that amazing.
And they're real people.
And these are all the real guys.
Yeah.
And he didn't just clean up the film. He didn't just make the film look good. He went so far as to hire lip readers that came in and figured out what these guys were saying to one another, and then he brought in voice actors, because they didn't record audio on this. Mm-hmm. They brought in voice actors to recreate the dialogue so that you can actually hear these guys having conversations with one another. You can hear what they're saying to one another, and then, kind of put sound effects and stuff in it. So again, when you're watching it and you see it with the sound effects and with the voices and with the cleanup of the footage and everything, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It really looks like it was shot today. And it transports you back into those moments of what these guys had to deal with, what their lives were like. And then he also got recordings of some of the actual guys who were there. Of course, these guys are all long dead, but he got recordings of these guys basically telling their stories. So as you're watching the footage, you're hearing the real guys telling stories about what it was like to be on the front lines and and go into battle and whatnot. And it's just an amazing film. It's a really well put together documentary. Now, and when we saw it in 3D. I'm not real big on 3D, but actually it does work pretty well in 3D. I think because of the fact that the footage you're seeing is so unique, it really does kind of give it another layer. The first 15 or so minutes of the documentary is like standard black and white old footage, pictures, and people talking about everything. But man, once it kicks into that new footage, or I guess you could call it new footage, it's not new footage, but the re-envisioned footage. Uh-huh. That stuff is so amazing, and I was just blown away. There was a couple moments where I actually teared up, which I don't normally do in a documentary, and it really kind of got to me. And so, but I think this is a really important part of history, and it's a part of history that I think often gets very overlooked. So I hope that people get a chance to see this. It deals mainly with the British fighting against the Germans, and kind of the Soviets at the time and whatnot, and what that conflict was for those guys. And Peter Jackson even says at the beginning of it, he says, you know what, there's a lot of stories from World War I. Like, this is just one of them, and this is just one little segment of it. He doesn't even bother to mention locations or specific dates or anything, because he says, I just wanted to transport you into a moment in time so that you could experience this and see what these guys had to go through on a regular basis. And so it's really an incredible film. It's called They Shall Not Grow Old. It's short. It's like an hour and a half long, but it's an experience. It's probably one of the most unique film experiences I've had in a long time.
Well, that sounds really great. I'm looking online, and it's got 4.5 out of 5 at Rolling Stone, 92% at Metacritic, and 98% on Google users. So obviously critically acclaimed. And Peter Jackson, everything he does is beautiful, so I can only imagine how amazing that looks. So, wow, man. That's
Those guys that didn't like it are idiots. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, hey, speaking of liking and not liking, and you know what? I know that a couple of weeks back you put out your big list of I guess it's Oscar nominee picks, who you think is going to win the big awards coming up soon. So the Oscars are in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, it's February 24th on ABC.
Okay.
And we have got up at BigFanboy.com. You can check out the list of the nominees. If for any reason you missed the announcements of the nominees, we've got all the nominees up there. We've also got our picks to win, which I select what I think the films that are going to win. And I always note that when I do this, that these are the films that I think are going to win. It doesn't necessarily mean that I want them to win.
Right.
It just means that these are the films that I feel confident will probably take it home based on a variety of factors, whether it's, what I've seen at other award ceremonies and whatnot. But, yeah, so we've got all of our picks up there. If you want to check that out, you can see that at BigFanboy.com. And you can see who I think is going to take it home. And what's funny is when people ask me that, that changes from day to day. I mean, when I post it, the next day I probably would have completely different answers. It just all depends on what you see going on in the media. And the SAG Awards just happened. We saw a lot of interesting stuff come out of that. So you just never know. I mean, it's very, very hard to predict.
Well, tell me this, just to give you a quick spoiler, who's your pick for, Best Picture and maybe, Best Actor or something?
Sure. Well, for Best Picture of the Year, if you had asked me back in November what I thought was going to take it, I probably would have said Vice, because Vice, for me, was just in terms of, an overall film presentation, acting, the film itself being put together and everything, I thought it was the most impressive film of the year. I really felt like this was a film that was going to blow everybody away. What has surprised me and what has changed my point of view on that is to see the amount of attention that Green Book is getting. Green Book is really getting a lot of accolades. And so my pick to win for the Oscars currently is Green Book. I think that's probably going to take it home. And one of the reasons I think it's going to take it home is because I think that out of all the movies that came out last year, it's one of the most accessible movies. And what I mean by that is accessible for audiences to where anybody could go in, watch that movie, and enjoy it for what it was. That's a hard thing to do. That's a really hard thing to do, because when you look at a movie like Vice, obviously political opinions will influence how you perceive that film. You look at a movie like A Star Is Born, if you're not a Lady Gaga fan, you might not like that film. So there's always going to be factors and whatnot that would affect your decision making. But I feel like Green Book is probably going to take it. What's interesting to me about what we're seeing now with some of the other awards, like the Golden Globes and the SAG Awards, Black Panther is taking a lot of stuff home. And, I've had several discussions about this. I enjoyed Black Panther. I think Black Panther is a great film. I do not think Black Panther deserves a Best Picture award. And I think the only reason that it's even in that category is because if you remember, I think we talked about it on one of the Fanboy Fridays, the Oscars had proposed this ludicrous category of popular film, where they were going to give out an Oscar for what they called popular film, which basically meant if it was a movie that wasn't necessarily Oscar-worthy, but it was popular in theaters, you could win an award for it. And everybody backlashed on them and said, this is a stupid idea, you shouldn't do it. And I think within days or a week later, they said, okay, yeah, we're not going to do that. But in the time that it took for them to make that decision, Marvel and Disney said, well, hell, we're going to push Black Panther. We're going to try to give this a really big Oscar push for popular film. So what happened was you had a holdover from that, where all that Oscar buzz and all that push that they had given Black Panther for popular film kind of ended up pushing it into Best Picture in the heads of a lot of the Oscar voters. And it's kind of strange in a way that, now we have a superhero movie in the Best Picture category. And I will say this also, because some people have asked, well, why Black Panther and why not Infinity War? Wasn't Infinity War a much more meaningful movie in terms of what all happens with the stories and whatnot? And my answer to that is simple. Black Panther is a singular character story that is extremely accessible for audiences. You could go in and watch that movie after not seeing any of the other Marvel movies, and you can enjoy it for what it is. Infinity War is part of a much larger puzzle. And films like that will never get nominated because of the fact that the only way you could really experience and enjoy that film is you would have to have seen all of the other parts of it. So that's why Black Panther is in the Best Picture category. So sorry, that was a very long rant.
No, it's great. I always love whatever you say. How about like Best Actor?
Sure, Best Actor, it's got to be Christian Bale. I was so blown away with what he did playing Dick Cheney. I mean, he really just kind of transforms himself in that movie, and the performance is incredible. There's several moments where I kind of, I forgot I was watching Christian Bale. I mean, he just looks so different. He really immersed himself in playing that role and kind of became Dick Cheney. Now, what's interesting, he would be my pick to win for Best Actor, but again, we're seeing a lot of love being thrown the way of Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody. A lot of people seem to really love that movie. And then, as if that wasn't enough of a loop being thrown, I think Bradley Cooper just won a Best Actor award. So, I think it's anybody's game, but if I was going to bet on anyone, I'd bet on Bale. I think it's going to be Bale to take home. And then as far as Best Actress goes, this is another controversial category because a lot of people think Lady Gaga should get it for A Star is Born. I think you and I talked about this, Robert, and I think I said back when the film came out that, because I think you actually asked me, you said, do you think this will be a Best Actress award for her? And my response was no. And I think the reason being, I think we've got many more years of Lady Gaga doing movies. This is her coming out party. This is where she's showing everybody, yes, I can act. Yes, I can hold my own against all these other people. But this one's going with Glenn Close. It's got to be Glenn Close. She has won all the other Best Actress awards that have been out there. Everybody's talking about that performance. It's a movie that nobody saw, but enough people saw it to know that it was worth nominating. And so I think it's going to be Glenn Close's award to take home.
We can see all of your other picks at bigfanboy.com. So you got the full list of nominees, and I guess you highlight your picks, right?
Yeah, it's highlighted in green, my pick to win, and take note of it and see how well I do. And we'll do like a follow up after the Oscars are over, and we'll score and we'll see what my score is. Historically, I do have a pretty good track record when it comes to the Oscars, except for the one thing that always gets me is the technical categories. I can almost never get those right. But I think a lot of times it's because those are anybody's game. Like anybody in those categories would be deserving of taking it home. So, we'll see. I feel pretty confident that I've got this one locked down. So we'll see.
All right, well, we'll see you again. Everybody check out Mark's picks for the Oscars at bigfanboy.com. Anything else we need to talk about before I let you go, brother?
No, just as always, I want to give a quick little plug to Dallas Comic Show. We got another event coming up April 6th and 7th. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I guess, like the rest of everybody in the world, I'll be snuggled up on the couch with some hot wings watching the Super Bowl on Sunday. You got a pick for that game, Robert?
You know what? I got a little bet going on with a buddy here who picks the Patriots, so I'm just going to be, devil's advocate, and I'm going Rams.
I'm going Rams, too.
There you go.
I'm going Rams, too.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, very good. I guess we'll find out next week. Hey, and also, next week on the show, it's a bit of a landmark for us. So we're going to have a special edition. So hopefully we'll have a lot of excitement next week, all right?
Sounds good, my man.
Once again, let's give it up to professional Q&A moderator and speaker, film critic at bigfanboy.com, and show director at Dallas Comic Show, Mr. Mark Walters. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Robert.
Fanboy Friday with Mark Walters and Robert Miguel.
Coyote Country 104.9.